Hey everyone, on Wednesday, the National Football League will hold its one day special NFL owners meeting at the Four Seasons Dallas, which really is located in a new town called Las Colinas, which is really part of the city of Irving, Texas. Now, momentary aside, I was there for the birth of Las Colinas, literally almost, when land developer Ben Carpenter imagined this sort of Disney-esque new town growing out of the fields and meadows just outside of, really within, but on the outskirts of Irving, Texas, and having this modern monorail system and unique lagoon like you find in Italy and all this stuff. For an urban planning major like myself, it was really cool just to hang out there and watch it develop. But I digress. It is there at the Four Seasons, at the luxury resort, where the National Football League will hold its owners' meeting to go over the timetables for the application of relocation for the Oakland Raiders, the San Diego Chargers, and the St. Louis Rams to enter the Los Angeles market. The meeting is such that no decisions will be made, but as I've said before, NFL meetings are such that there are some discussions that are almost as important as the final decision. I don't think this meeting will hold a large number of discussions that will qualify for that, but the simple fact that it's a special meeting means more often than not that that will be the case. That said, the information that I have to pass along to you early on is, I believe, more important than the meeting coming up. And that gets to this. The question is, about roughly a month after the presentations by Oakland, San Diego, and St. Louis, the home cities, of their plans to retain the teams in their cities, where are we? Well, let's start with Oakland. The blockbuster news is that a $200 million lease revenue bond issue based city contribution will be introduced as part of a reformed plan to build a stadium for the Oakland Raiders. This will have to come to council. The conversation right now is who will hold the liability on such a bond issue if it goes into default, the worst case scenario. Now, if you're thinking, lease revenue bond issue, I've heard that before. Lease revenue bond issues are very, very common, and all it means is this, that I take revenue from the stadium source, in this instance, and I use it to pay off a bond. The question is, if there's not enough money coming from, say, a percentage of concession revenues or whatever agreed upon revenue streams are used, who pays the default on the bond? Now, if it were an industrial development lease revenue bond structure, the way it would be written is that the mortgage for the Coliseum would be transferred to a bond trustee, and a corporation would basically pay the debt service. That corporation would consist of the Raiders, the city, so on, okay? And if the default occurred, then the bond trustee would hold the mortgage and be able to sell off the Coliseum. That means, if you're listening, you're paying attention, that means the public entities feel nothing. That's one way. The other way, the conventional way, is either the city or the Oakland Raiders, as the mayor wants, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, would pay the default. If the mayor and the city say, hey, Raiders, you pay it, the Raiders are going to say, no. Now, the hybrid answer is to form an LLC and basically transfer that portion. This is my idea, okay? This is my, right off the top of my head from experience, position on this. Form an LLC and then have that LLC hold the mortgage title to the Coliseum, or at least that portion of the Coliseum of concern that's of that $200 million value. And if the bonds go default, then the trustee holds that. There you go. Again, public entity feels nothing. And that's why, in saying that, I got pissed off at media, which thinks it knows about stadium financing, and in point of fact, doesn't know jack shit, and then we'll ask people who actually know, and they'll run to some sort of professor, and the professor will just basically give them an answer so the professor sees his or her name in the paper or the on the web page today. Okay, garbage, complete garbage, complete garbage. Now back to the issue of the Coliseum and the Raiders and this $200 million deal. This next step is to introduce it and then to bring it to the Raiders first and then the council for approval. So stay tuned for that announcement if it holds as it does. I personally am not in favor of that. I'm in favor of the deal that I structured because it's a true industrial development bond deal, but I digress. Now, let's turn to San Diego, where San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer has done an incredible job of aggressively meeting with NFL owners. Most recently, Clark Hunt, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs and the son of the late Lamar Hunt, on the 20th of November. Now, on Monday, Missouri Governor, let me take that out. The problem that Mayor Faulconer has, Mayor Kevin Faulconer of San Diego, is the one piece of this whole puzzle that he needs to be in place isn't there, and that's the Chargers. In direct contrast to the Oakland Raiders, who have met with Oakland city officials, Oakland and Alameda County city officials, the San Diego Chargers have not. And they seem to like to poke the bear because Kevin Faulconer, San Diego mayor, has involved his city attorney and then San Diego representatives in the California legislature. Why work to piss them off or try to piss them off and set in motion, or at least face the possibility of setting in motion, efforts that lead to changes in the law, California law and federal law, that harm the Chargers' ability to go anywhere, let alone any other NFL team? That's almost happened within the last 2 years. So Mark Fabiani, the Chargers spokesperson, and as I understand it, the architect of the Chargers plan, is really playing with fire. And he's going to keep basically hitting that bear in the nose very lightly. Don't be surprised if that bear comes back and gives a big whack across the face of the Chargers. I'm just saying, you don't mess with politicians like that, and the Chargers are playing with fire. Now, that leads us to Missouri and the more nuanced and smart and logical approach of Missouri Governor Jay Nixon and David Peacock, the head of the stadium task force for St. Louis. Governor Nixon met with Rams owner Stan Kroenke on Monday, just prior to this meeting coming up in Dallas, and the Rams, are in a position where, be it Inglewood, which has its problems regarding air rights in the LA airport, or St. Louis, have a stadium place to go to. The St. Louis task force under Governor Jay Nixon has already not just secured a contractor to build the stadium, but a naming rights deal with National Car Rental. All they need is city council approval to go. And even though the words of St. Louis Councilman Antonio French would lead you to believe that he can kill the deal, he is but one politician. Watch for St. Louis to be the closest to retaining its team, the Rams, in that city. Now, I believe that the NFL's quest to fill Los Angeles with an existing team is wrong-headed. I understand that it comes from the excitement the owners got in their collective wallets, or the prospect of having an organization in LA that is as valuable, if not, more valuable than the Clippers. But look at this. I mean, just from a bare logic standpoint, bare raw logic. Let's take the Oakland Raiders. It does not make sense. And I'm not going to ask this as a question. I'm going to declare this. It makes sense. None. It makes no sense for the Raiders to move from the Bay Area, which consists of two of the richest cities in the country, San Jose in its metropolitan area, and San Francisco in its metropolitan area, both of which have the number 1 and I believe number 3 highest per capita gross metropolitan product figures in the country. San Jose is number 1 at approximately $227,000 per person. San Francisco is number 3 at $103,000. Where does LA sit? Way down at number 17. That's right. Not 10, not 10, 15. 17th down. $61,000, or basically almost one half the buying power. So in that metropolitan area, you're going to stick a new stadium with the highest, or what I'm told will be the highest seat license costs of any stadium in the NFL system in that area, rather than build a new stadium in the Bay Area with an established marketplace, an established identity, a better business approach that takes advantage and reflects the high-tech economy and culture that we built, and thereby build an excellent chance to have a team of exceptionally higher value than right now. You're going to take that team and move it to Los Angeles, when in point of fact, the real issue is, can you run your team well in LA? And if you couldn't get that kind of money in the Bay Area, why should you be expected to get it in LA? You say, oh, Bob Iger is getting on board. Okay, fine, but is Bob Iger going to bring in, the Avengers and put the Avengers on the Raiders team and the Chargers team and create this whole Disney thing? Will he be allowed to do that under the NFL ownership rules? Of course he would. But is he going to do that? He's the chairman. He's coming in as an individual. He's not bringing Disney in with him in that way. And it does lead to question the degree to which a corporation can get involved in running a team in that way, with the whole tax issues with the Bartolo's and everything else. So, again, it doesn't make any sense to put an organization, to move them into the LA area, given even today it's weak, comparatively weak with respect to the Bay Area economic position. Not to me at all. LA is better off with a team I call the LA Stars, with the colors of California blue, gold, red, and white. And we could form those do a deal with a studio, and you have Netflix TV shows around the team and its players. The players become actors, and you have storylines that fit well into games that you play on the smartphone. And you see how all this would form this new kind of team, a unique opportunity to take a football team and design it from the ground up as an entertainment vehicle, working with the studios. Unprecedented. You could do that with an expansion team in LA, but you could do that less so with an existing team and its fan base. You'd lose the fan base if you tweak them too much. You really would. So I think the NFL is headed down the wrong path. But that's part 1 of my preview. Part 2 will come tomorrow. Stay tuned.